Hi, it's Leo from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Do you struggle with making a whimsical look on your furniture and selling it? There's a fine line of it being too childlike or too dark, or where would they put it? So today I'm going to show you how to nail a whimsical look, and I use loads of molds, I use stencils, I use a transfer, and I show lots of different techniques like dry brushing using mica powder. So watch and you'll see me create this. Okay, so let me just tell you a little bit about the piece. Oh, first of all, I'm at this side. It is a different angle you're seeing me today because my Annie Sloan pieces are on my back wall. So this is my situation for today. This is a Fullertone gramophone cupboard. This flaps open like this. There's no gramophone bits or gunnels or anything in it now. It's been stripped a long time ago. And the weird thing about this is it only has one door. This is actually a false door. We thought they painted it closed, and then when we looked inside, it's actually a false door.
I was hitting it with a hammer and everything.
He was trying to tap it open, and then Martin went, oh, hang on a minute. We opened it up and we were like, nah, it's a false door. So this is a false door. This one here does open. What has happened here? It had two moldings with this big thing on. One was broken, so I didn't want them on anyway because I'm going to put decoupage paper on it. So off they came. I am going to break my rules today about putting molds on painted furniture because I don't know what they've painted for this with. I don't know if you can hear that. It's kind of gritty. So I think it's a really good tooth to put molds on. So I'm okay with that. How are we going to approach this today? Well, off camera, I have cast quite a number of molds, and I'm just going to run you through. I'm going to show you one, and I'm going to show you what I've molded. Right. So on here, we have some butterflies from the Monarch mold. So that's that one. And we have this flower here from He Loves Me Not. I think this is He Loves Me Not. Sometimes I forget.
I think it is.
Is it?
Might not be.
The new ones have the names on the side, but I think it is He Loves Me Not. In fact, I'm almost convinced it is.
If you're wrong, they'll all be screaming at the screen.
Oh, they'll say, "Oh, Leo, come on!" But anyway, and oh no, this is He Loves Me Not. Oh, this is the primitive mold. What? My apologies. It's been a long day. Right, okay.
This is a long week.
Well, yes, it's been a long week. So this is the primitive mold. This is He Loves Me Not mold, and I've done this one here and this one here. So these two here. I didn't do anything with this, but I did cast a couple of these stocks. Not that I couldn't do that myself, but I was being a little bit lazy. Did I take anything from this one? No, it's just gone. It's just got Rogan gone in the pile. And this is the acanthus mold, and I cast this big one and this big one. Yeah. The one that's going to play quite a major part. Yeah, and and I've cast. You can tell because it's still dirty. Martin, you haven't cleaned this yet. This one.
I've only just arrived.
I know, but come on. I've cast two of this toadstool here. Right. This, can I just go back to He Loves Me Not one? This one here, it plays quite a large part because I've done an awful lot of these and an awful lot of these two leaves, because I'll show you why in a minute. Right, so that's molds. Now, you don't have to have all the molds in the world. One mold will probably do what you want to do. Depends what you want to do. But I'm trying to get a sort of moody, whimsical, dark look. I know I've got butterflies and flowers, but it's all hopefully going to come to pass. Now, if you've never, ever, ever cast a mold in your life before, I'm going to quickly show you how to do it. Oh, am I telling fibs about this one? No, it wasn't this one. I'll do this flower on here. Right, so what do you need? You need a release agent. So I use cornflower. This cornflower I think I've had for about 3 years. It never goes down much. You just need to put some on your brush. Not too much because you'll lose the definition and the detail in your mold if you fill it too full of cornflower. So what I do is I kind of dust it round, give it a good shimmy, make sure there's nothing hanging about. You can tip it upside down if you want. Then you need to grab yourself a little bit of Das clay. Now I prefer Das clay. It doesn't shrink as much as other clays, and that's all I'm going to say on that one. All my molds that I'm using today are IOD molds. And if you've never bought an IOD mold and you fancy doing it, you go to the IOD website and they'll sort you out there. So all you do is then get a scraper, and I use a plastic scraper. Don't let it lift like that I just did there. You want it nice and smooth because you want the surface smooth, because that's where your glue is going to go. Yeah. You then let gravity pull your mold out just like that, and that is how you mold. If you've got any sort of parts that are a little bit iffy, just give them a wee sort out before you use them, right? It's that simple, right? So you've got your molds. So I've got these ones. I've got, as I said, multiple of these. I've got a couple of mushrooms. I've now got an extra flower. I have these. I've maybe gone a bit crazy, actually. I was listening to Game of Thrones on my audiobook. It was all getting a bit exciting, so I just kept casting. And I've also got
I can imagine it.
these here. So, that's why I had the acanthus scroll. On the acanthus scroll mold, it was that little flower there. Yeah. Just in case you have. I'm not expecting anybody to have all these molds. So, and these are my stalks that I took off the heirloom roses or the sunflowers or whatever it was. But you can just roll that, because I'm going to make big trees in a minute and everything. So this is where we're at with the molds. So I'm going to sit these over here. No, I'm not, because Martin might stand on them. I'll sit them this way. Now, Martin, you know you will. You've got a history.
Yeah, I know.
Now, I find this the easiest way to apply molds because my glue hasn't got a nice nozzle on it. I'm using the real proper no nails today. I'm being very posh because normally I just use the cheap brand and they're all the same. You need a thick all-purpose glue for molds. That's what you need. Thick all-purpose glue. My surface is scratchy.
That was on a deal on Amazon.
It wasn't a deal. You could get 2 for 1 or 2. It was just, anyway, you must remember that when you're applying it, I would prefer the furniture to be like this, but to be honest with you, this is smoother than this. So I don't know what it's painted with. It's like it's an unusual kind of paint. It hasn't been waxed or sealed, so it's nice and dry. It's not been waxed. I've checked all of that, so we're ready to go. Now, I get my little cake piping bag thingy, and I've shown you this so many times. And then what I do is I give it a good squeeze of glue into my bag. Probably enough to start with. Squeeze that down. Now, you just need a tiny cut nozzle. You don't need a great big one. Just push it down and it's good to go. Now, what is my thought? Today, I have designed myself a whimsical set of dark, I'm going to show you in a minute, paper with little Red Riding Hood on it. How cute is that? Now, this is what the actual paper looks like. Now, this paper will be available for perks if you're a channel member. And when you go on to our website and it's got the channel member thing and it's got no image, it's the little Red Riding Hood that's coming up next. That's your perks. So it comes with this, and it also comes with... Hang on. You can't move, Martin.
I can. My bad. I stuck all my cameras on top of the papers.
And it also comes with... And it comes with these coordinating sheets. So this, and this. So I'm going to be using these today. These are this is a custom that I've decided to do. So it's custom paper that I've designed for myself. So this is where my little Red Riding Hood is going to go. So what am I going to do? I think the best thing I can probably do is, although I've been very silly and I haven't got a pen. Don't you get up again. You focus on this. I'll go and get the pen. Right. 1 minute. Sorry, Martin. You're the human climbing frame for my knee. White's no good.
I'll show them the papers again.
You show them the papers again, Martin. That's exactly what to do. And I'll just rifle in all my equipment up here. Sorry, I am coming back. Here I am.
And this one.
Right. I'm back again. You reverse. Watch my molds.
I'm watching your molds, don't worry.
So we want the main focus. Now you can use any of your decoupage paper. You can use wallpaper. You can use napkins. You can use whatever you have to hand. It doesn't have to be this, but I'm just wanting to show a sort of moody darkness in this, and I thought I would just design myself a set. So, and I know I'm in a fortunate position that I'm able to do that. I just want a rough idea of the size here to here to here. And I think I want to do something like there. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, put your papers to whatever you're going to be using at the side, because it's going to be a wee while before we need any of those. So, I am going to start applying my molds. I've got my glue, and I've also got another little paintbrush if I need to like apply glue in a different way. I'm going to start by doing something quite major on this line here, right? Which is I'm going to need the thin stalks. So I'm just going to sit those on the side for a minute, and I'm just going to do this down my line with my piping bag. And start up here and run this down and glue this down onto my cabinet. I'm going to have to cut up there in a minute, but I had a little bit of a broken piece that I think will fit in here quite nicely. Yeah. Now you're going to need a clay tool, a knife, a blade, whatever your heart desires to kind of cut your... I like these arrow tools. They work really nicely. Cut that, but I'm going to cut a little bit extra. Even though the clay will shrink a bit, you don't want anything, and you need to kind of push your ends down up beside cupboards that open and push the top there. Now, I'm not too worried about any sort of overspill of glue, because I'm going to be putting a bit of texture on this. Now I'm going to do the exactly same on this side. I'm on it tonight, Martin. I'm gonna
Bossing it, baby.
bossing it. I'm on fleek. Oh, this one here's a little bit dodgy. We'll do this bit first. We'll come back up and do this. I don't mind if it's not particularly straight. It's all okay. It's good if it's maybe a little bit. I'm not making excuses for myself. It doesn't matter if it's not quite straight. Let's just get a little bit of this into here and cut it here. And we need some glue up the top. Now, I'm going to get one of these on, and then Martin's going to put up a camera so you can see me do the rest of the design. You don't have to endure all of this, but it's always good to kind of get a rough idea of what's going on in my mind, which nobody wants to really know that. But also it's good to kind of understand the process of what I'm doing here. I want to make sure that this end here has got plenty of glue in it. And again, just kind of side that down, and the same up, the same up here, because honestly, you don't want that coming off. It will ruin the whole aesthetic of your furniture. Yeah, now there we go. I'm quite happy with that sort of vibe going on here. Now what I'm going to try and attempt to do, and I know it's brave, is this big squat square sort of fern here. I really liked it when I drew that out and put it on my piece, on my paper, but I thought, how can I recreate that with... I don't have a great big fern, so I thought it'll be slightly unusual and a little bit different. Oh, actually, I've just realised I don't need this part here. I'm being silly. I need to take that part away. That's the good thing about clay. Just set those bits to the side, because you can probably reuse them, and you might need little parts to fill things. I'm going to take that down a little bit more, because we're going to need our top. So I'm going to try and recreate this fern with these small leaves here. Yeah, so we'll need one on the top. Now, I've never done this before, so I don't know if it's going to work or not. You're doing it with me. As long as it doesn't end up like last week's lampshade, we're all good. I'm still going to need to have to take a wee piece off here. Oh, I didn't smooth the glue right to the edge. And remember, your glue has to go on all surfaces or your molds. Now, I'll fix all of the joins at the end. So I think we're going to have to be quite small in the beginning, and then we'll use the bigger ones right at the end. Glue, finger, application. I'm pushing all surfaces without losing too much definition. Again, glue. Oh, sorry, there's bits of everything coming off my carpet now. It's the where I'm working today. I'm blaming where I'm working now. This. Wait, I try and get rid of that hair on my finger. It's a red hair, so it must be yours, man.
It must be.
You're a silver fox. Right, that there. So I've finally finished my Annie Sloan piece for the Painters Challenge, but it has taken so much out of me. So if you're wondering why there's no hand painting on this piece today, I'm just letting you know I will not be hand painting for about 3 years. Doesn't matter if I'm begged, it ain't happening. Next week I'm going to do transfers. I've already homed in on that. I think that piece has finished me right here, making sure it's on all of the edges. Now we're going to start with our bigger size, I think. Right to the edges, and it's got to go right to the edges every single time. Now it's not quite like the fern. That hair still stuck to me. It's not quite like the fern in the decoupage paper, but I think it will work. I think we'll make it work. Like this. And this is a good thing about like molds and things. You can make other things from molds, or you can cut molds up to make other things out of the mold. And I do it quite a lot, and I think it's quite good when you do something like that. Like that. And then it becomes your own. You own this piece because you've done something that's not like the run of the mill stuff. And I'm all about, you know, being an individual. I'm on a Martin.
Oh yeah.
Straighten up my leaf here. I'm just going to kind of try and squeeze that out a little bit so it's got a bit more of stock, and I'll do that on this one before I glue it. So I'm squeezing that out a little bit at this end just to give it more of a... Now, I'm not too worried about the general cleanup because, as I said, I'm going to be putting some texture, I think, in between this and stuff. So we'll have this one coming out and kind of twisting from here. Now you need to get a decent kind of thing that you can work with to fix in and make sure that it looks like it's joined nicely without losing any definition in the stock.
Yeah, you can get yourself a set of these clay tools on Amazon. Just literally search for clay tools and you'll get a pack of 6 for like $2 or something.
I have tons because when I used to do my art classes, I've got loads of these sets, but you'd be surprised. I can never find them.
True.
But I don't think you would.
You probably had like 100 sets
Yeah,
of those at one point.
I know.
Now it's a case of
where are my clay tools? Yeah, it's an odd thing in my life. It's like my house. It's like the Bermuda Triangle. I have something one day, then I ask where it is the next day, and I can't find it. And so my life is like that.
One day we'll be clearing out a cupboard, and then we'll open a box,
and there'll be clay tools.
It'll be full of clay tools.
I mean, if I told you that I had 50 sets of salt and peppers, why have I got 50 sets of salt and pepper in my cupboard over there in the studio? It's just because when Jamie got married, we did our wedding in a great big marquee in our garden, and so we needed all these things. I've also got, I think I've got, how many, 70 school chairs from
the folding
wooden vintage school chairs, trestle tables.
Yeah, about 70 of them.
I've kept all of them. I've got them at the back of my studio. You never know when I might need all those chairs. Maybe I'll have a garden party. Right, okay. Now, I'm quite happy with that. I mean, the sum of the cleanup you might have to kind of work for, but the time that this is painted, I think we're going to be finding that this is just perfect. I'm going to recreate the same on this side. But what I'm going to do, and you'll see when the camera is, I'm going to intersperse it with some flowers because I'm trying to get it to look like similar, but kind of just set the scene for the paper. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, are we happy with this? I think we are. Right, I'm going to crack on. Okay, so you watched me apply the molds. My molds are dry. I'm not a molecular scientist, but I do believe that clay is wet. If you cover it with lots of wet paint, I'm sure that that changes the structure of the glue underneath and how stable the product is when you do it. I know a lot of people put molds over paint and everything else, but I believe that this is probably the best way to do it. And my molds have never come off and they're solid once they're on. So, you know, there's a way to do everything and this is the way I choose to do it. So I'm going to paint it. Now, before we move on, Martin is actually, we're getting rid of the doors completely because we're just going to make it purely a blanket box type affair. So he's put a piece of wood in there and he's screwed this together. So I now don't have any doors. I don't want it confusing that there's just one door. It seemed a little bit silly. So that way we've just got open and shut that way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to coat this, the base coat of all of this is going to be black and inside is going to be bright red. So it's the same deal when you paint molds, or I filled these holes as well so that they're filled. But it's the same deal when you paint your molds. Get a brush that's nice and fluffy, that you know is going to get round all your molds, and you have to, and I've said this all the time, you have to look in every direction because you want it all solidly painted, and it takes a while to paint molds and there's quite a lot of molds on this piece, so we're just going to work our way around it, and it's going to take a little bit of a hot minute for me to do this, but
but not for them.
But not for you guys. I'll do a little bit on camera and then we'll oh, look at that. There you go. Just shows you. I think maybe what that happened is we carried this last night over to our house so that the molds would dry. And I think maybe it was sitting in my kitchen. And I think maybe in my kitchen this morning, my son was bumped it. And I think maybe that's what he's done when it wasn't quite dry. But never mind, we can live without that one down there. It's never good with the stable because the stable doesn't dry things the way it would in a home because there's no heat source and it's kind of damp. So it's getting to that time of year. If there's not a lot of heat outside, I have to kind of move it back and forward. Like I wouldn't be putting all these molds on in the winter. I would have to do it in the house. But if you live in a warm climate, that's fabulous. But I don't also like the speeding it up to dry it. Like I wouldn't use a heat tool or anything like that to speed up the process. I think it's just got to dry naturally. And you can see what I'm doing here. If you're stuck on molds and you're new to molds and you don't know anything about molds, my most popular video on YouTube is called Molds 101, and I'll get Martin to put the link up above to the Molds 101 video. It's a really good one because it goes from from the very beginning through the whole process of molds and talks about how to put molds on furniture. So I'm going to get on because this is a little bit like watching paint dry. All I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this black, but I'm just going to go right the way across the doors as well before I put my decoupage paper on. Yeah, for a change. I can come back. I'm going to be coming back with more paint anyway. I'm only going to be giving it one coat of the black just now. I will be going back and doing the legs. I'd considered when I was sitting over there before, I said to man, shall we cut it here and make it shorter? But I think it's more of a whole piece, and it's nicer high up because you can put things on it. If you lower it, it's more like a chest or a plant stand. And
yeah, it's a really unusual blanket box, isn't it?
It is. It's going to be an unusual one, this one, I think. So I think this is the way I'm going to go with it. So I'm just going to happily paint this black, one coat. Try not to get too much brush strokes where your decoupage paper is going to go. You want it to be nice and sorry, there's a bit there that just doesn't want to paint. There we go. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that now. Okay, now the least forgiving colour for doing molds is actually black. If you're painting it lighter or white, it's easy because you don't see all your little tiny parts. I have been round this. I've been upside down. I've looked down on it. I've looked sideways. I may still find some along the way, but I think it's done. This has had its coat of paint and inside is just drying off and it's had its first coat of the red. I've dried around the edges so I can close the lid. I'm leaving that just now. Let it dry naturally and I'll go back and I'll do that in a minute. quick top tip, if you don't know this already, because I'm sure you probably do, never paint furniture on a carpet. I'm used to having my stone floor, but I've got carpet today, so I've just put some wood. There's stone on the back, but I've just put some wood under it, just because when you get to the bottom, you're more apt to pick up hair and pieces of fluff from your mat. I'm sure you already know that. So if you do. Right, okay, decoupage time. Let's just get rid of this little white edge at the top and bottom. Now, I could have already did this, granted, but, well, I was too busy fiddling around with those molds. I think this is going to be a really nice one. Oh, well, who knows, you can never tell. I mean, after the lampshade fiasco of last week, I feel I've got to redeem myself in many different ways. Although I've been just reading, today is the day that the video actually goes out, because we're always a week in advance. So although today is Sunday, this is next Sunday's video. So the video's gone out and it's not doing too badly, and I am enjoying how much hilarity that people enjoy from it. So I suppose if it made you laugh, it's a good thing. We've had another kind of one of those days as well, because Martin and I decided to go shopping this morning, and Martin put his glasses on the top of the car and drove away.
And I've been up and down our farm track looking for them. They obviously made it as far as the main road. So my glasses are currently, I don't know, on the A68 between here and Kelso.
We couldn't find them, so we both tried to look at the undergrowth to see which way they might have slipped, because the track goes like this and it was way up a hill to get onto a main road, so we had to go out to a cheap shop, you know, one that you can get the reading glasses, and we went to a supermarket first. We went to Sainsbury's, they didn't have those little, so anyway, that was what happened today. So that was a little bit of,
yeah.
So just
and of course they're brand new glasses as well.
There is new ones.
So I'm going to have to order another new pair of glasses.
Martin and I in glasses. Martin in particular is really bad with glasses. So now he's wearing a pair of cheap shop glasses just now until we can get him a new prescription, a new pair of glasses. Right, okay, so I've ripped the edges. Now I better put my glasses on for this part. Now there is a step that it goes in here slightly, but let's just have a wee look at where we're going, because I don't want to lose too much of this. So let's just kind of take it, pull it in a bit here and take this bit here away, and then we're kind of going back out where this leaf is, and same here and here, but we're coming back in again. I just need to turn my paper this way just so that I don't end up losing too much of my woof. Just bring that up a bit again. And then we have another in and out with this leaf here. Now, why do I do it this way? I do it this way because I don't like putting molds over decoupage paper. If you feel like you're feeling a little bit like walking on the wild side and you do that, well, that's up to you, because everybody's got to do what they do. Just because I'm doing it this way, I'm just trying to teach you right. It will eventually come off of paper. It's a given, really. Because now mine is on rough paint that was sanded back and glued on. It's got 2 coats round the moulds. It's had various touch-up round the edges, and it's going to be sealed. So I know that my moulds are on and on for good. Apart from that one that got bumped last night on the way over to the house. We had to do it in the dark as well. It was very entertaining. Martin and I were
trying to do it one-handed with torches.
Martin had one hand on it, a torch on the other hand. Now, thank goodness it's not a heavy piece. If it had been a great big piece with moulds, it would have just had to have waited. But I always like to, I'm running late this week, I always like to have this done by tonight, and obviously this isn't the case right now. I could have, do you know what, I'm going to get a bit of masking tape. I think I've got masking tape in here. I had it a minute ago up there somewhere. There we go. I think this just might make the process of what I'm actually trying to achieve a little bit easier. Why make it difficult? There we go. A little bit of tape on there will make me much jollier. Around that little flower there, and round this leaf here. I'm ripping it obviously because I want an edge I can blend away. And for those that have never seen Made by Marley decoupage paper, you're probably thinking, wow, she's applying that onto black. It's because it's slightly thicker, which means it's easier to apply and you don't have to paint anything white first. Now, I'm loving my work there, that's all I'm going to say. It's a little bit off here and there, but we'll get to that once we put some water on the back. I'm going to put a little bit of water on the back of this one just because I'm going around these fiddly parts. But I think as a kind of starter for 10, I'm quite happy. I've went and stuck that across my decoupage paper. That was very silly of me. Right, okay. I'm just going to take that part away, I think. There. Now, let's see we're there and thereabouts. Now, I'm going to set this under here. Now, same drill applies. You've seen me do it so many... Oh, can you see what just happened there? It's just going to be one of those jobs where you have to keep on checking. I keep seeing little parts,
Yeah,
but...
keep if you're doing it black, keep your black pot of paint handy.
Yeah, because
you will need it.
You will need it, and you will need to keep going back to it. Now,
you
like,
will find little white spots around the place.
I can see one here and here as well. And you just have to kind of work as you go. There. Right, okay, so Mod Podge time. I apply the decoupage paper with Mod Podge, and I'm going to put my glue on first, and then we are going to get to smoothing it all out. So let's just get it applied. And you don't want too much, but you don't want too little either. It's just like Goldilocks and the porridge. Well, I think so.
It is.
Yeah.
Not too much, not too little, just the right amount.
I don't need to worry now about joins. And if I had known that I was going to get rid of this cupboard last night, I would have put a few more around these hinges, but not to worry. We're not going to be bothering with that. Now, I always feel it's better to overglue the surface further than you're going to go, because then you know that your loose edge is going to be well stuck down. So let's just get in and around all of that leaf there, even though I'm going way too much. Now we're going to do the smoothing process. Get that all out of that joint, but we do need the paint in the joint, because remember, we're going to kind of do a little neat fold around the corner there, and then one last smooth. I don't need all that build up there. Happy days. That is a perfect way to apply. Now, Little Red Riding Hood's going to get a good scoosh. You don't normally have to do this. It's just because I'm running it up the edges of these moulds here. Now, let's get her centered first, because I'm going to try and make sure that I've got it going round all of the things that I wanted. I'm going to go down on my edge here first, up in this corner here, and fold up onto here. I'm going to worry about that part here in a minute, because I'm going up and round a corner, and I don't have, oh, maybe I do, hang on a minute. I now have two fabulous trolleys. I'll show you that in a minute. One from my brush and one from the paint. It's just I found the paint trolley so invaluable that I thought I need to separate my brushes, because I don't know if you've seen me in a video. I'm continually going, I need a brush for that. So I thought I'm just going to sort my brushes out and make sure that I've got them sorted. Now we're going down in that edge again, and then we're going out to here, moving it as we go up into this edge here, and we can sort all the little parts in amongst the bushes at this side in a minute. Now, am I happy with this application? Now remember, once you've got it on, leave it alone, but we are going to have to kind of fiddle around with the edges, but all the main parts, we do not want any wrinkles. So that's me stopping now. I know there's none, and I'm leaving it alone. Right, okay, so let's just have a wee look-see here. I think the best way, it's okay, Martin, I think the best way for me to deal with that is get a smaller brush, because I want to apply the glue and massage it in to the edges of the decoupage paper. Like, give it a little massage, make sure that there's plenty of glue. You know that you're not going to suffer from any lift. Stick that down. Get that down in there. Create a little bit of wrinkle there. Push this down here. All these little edges here will be nice to blend up, because it's quite frayed looking. Same around here. And let's get to the top. Put the red on there. Now, let's just get this flower or this leaf uncovered. Again, get your little brush. Make sure you've got plenty of glue under it, because you want to make sure it's stuck down. And you're massaging the glue into your edges. Don't worry about the Mod Podge, it'll dry. You're not worrying about that. You're just worrying about your application. And this is the way that you apply Made by Marley decoupage paper. And this is the way that you can blend up to the edges. Now, if you had a square aperture like we have on the top, and I can show you that later, that is so much simpler. You just need to apply it. And I'll show you how simple it is to apply in apertures when we get to there, but it is. Why am I doing decoupage this week? I'm doing it really because of the Annie Sloan piece. It has been so much hand painting that I just think, and that is the beauty of decoupage paper. It's quick, it's fun, you get good results, and for me it's a little bit of a holiday considering what I've been through recently. And when I show you my Annie Sloan piece, you'll understand why. It's been quite a labour of love. That's all I'm going to say, hasn't it, Martin?
It has. That's a bit of an understatement,
Yeah,
really.
it is.
Poor Lil, she has been literally nose to the grindstone for the past week and a bit, every night of the week.
Well, it started 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but the last week in particular,
oh yeah,
every night of the week to midnight, I've had to drag her out of the studio at midnight and go, enough's enough, darling. You know, she has worked her little socks off.
So this is a little bit of a holiday for me, and I love doing decoupage. I've always loved decoupage. I would do a decoupage video just about every week, but I understand people want to learn all new things, but I just love decoupage. I just think I love it. I love the blendy part, and as you can see, mine is already drying and there's no wrinkles in it. I'm just going to make sure I get up around that flower and I'm massaging in my glue into here, because then that way it's going to give us a nice edge to blend to, but it's also going to make sure that our paper never comes back off. I like this bottom edge down here. It's nice. Now, there we have it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry. We're going to give it a couple of minutes just to kind of set up. I don't recommend you put heat on it. I think better to just let it dry naturally. And then we're going to work out what we're going to do with these lovely moulds. Okay, last time we were here, I was painting in all of the moulds. I did that. I finished them off with some brown, well, I think it's brown. No, it's coffee mica powder with a tiny touch of brown in it. I just kind of rubbed it onto my fingers. So now what we're going to do is we're going to paint this background in, but we want it to be sort of kind of go from black to the blues and the greens. You can see where it's going because I've dry brushed up here and I've done the other side. So it's just so that you can see it all. Now you need a brush about this sort of size, nothing too big to get in between this. And I've got my Florences on paper, on card, and I'll tell you why, because when you're dry brushing, it's much easier to dry brush on card than it is a mix mat, because a mix mat repels paint. So when you try and offload your brush isn't offloaded. So this is the kind of mess I'm dealing with right now, but it's the best way to kind of do it. And what you're kind of doing is, you're not off. This is one of those ones where I think you can get too hung up with it's going on the molds, but the overall look is what you're looking for. So I wouldn't worry about precision here. Oh, there's an eBay noise, Martin. You must have bought something. Anyway, Martin's not got a microphone right now because I lost mine, but then I found it and I left it in the kitchen. There you go. There's a story for you for today. There we go. So what you're doing, and I'm alternating between the Florence and the Provence. They're from the same family, so these two colours work really well. So I've got a little bit lighter on my brush here as I go around this toadstool. So I'm trying to keep the blackness, the sort of moodiness around my moulds. I don't want to go into see that part there. I'm wanting sort of dark. You don't want to be having it too solid either. So, but I'm also painting sections as well. So it's a kind of like, it's a little bit of everything. And if you're doing a painty section, just put a little bit more water on your brush and just kind of twirl it around like that. That's another bit we can do in here, and I'm going to get some lighter for up here. Oh, that's quite heavy. But as I said, this is one of those ones you can get too hung up with it's going on my molds, but the overall finish is what you're looking for. So I tend not to get too hung. Do you know what? This is one of those ones you can really have fun with. So just have fun with it and don't worry too much about the close-ups, because it still looks good close up, but the impact is when you kind of just come back slightly. You don't even need to go away quite too far to understand. Now, I know and understand this is boring, but once you get to the sort of outer edges, you can change your brushes and you can get a little bit bigger. And go around it like this. I've already done this side because I'm going to show you what I'm about to do on that next. When it gets down here, you can really go to town, but remember an offload because you're doing your dry brushing. Take that right along there to here. I'm going to do a wee bit heavier because I really want a bit of distress sort of look. So let's just kind of a bit heavy in here. This is nice because it's got quite a lot of parts that you can distress. I'm kind of trying to get this bit done first before I move on to here. Now, we had that detail underneath here before we put the molds on, but that's not necessarily an issue. You just need to do the same thing. I mean, you're just, because it's bringing out that detail as well, which I thought was quite nice when I did it. We might come back and do something with that detail. We might. I still have to put berries on this. There is going to be berries and there is going to be some trees. So it's going to be slightly different on the front than it is on the sides, because on the sides, obviously, the molds are just on the edges and on the corners, and we'll get to the side in a minute and I can show you. I'm kind of rattling through this a little bit too quickly, but it's just I want to get to the point where I can show you how to do the dark. At this stage, you're okay. You can pretty much, you know, I think the colours sort of can be the green, the darker the green, the florals. Take that down into here. Now, this is where we're going to start blending soon. So let's just, I'm using a really dry brush at this stage. It's not too, because we're going to start with some black in a minute. So just let's get green on it first. Does it look good on camera, Martin? Because it looks really nice, and I mean, I sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but it looks quite nice as I'm doing it. Right, let's just get down in here done, and we'll move on to the sides, because I'll let this side dry before we come back to it. I'm going to paint a little bit in here, I think, just to kind of keep it kind of like that sort of distressed look. Now, I've got this part up here to do, but I could do that in a minute off camera. Let's just work on this part here, and I've got quite a decent brush for doing this. So I've got a little bit black here on my palette, but on my piece of paper, on my card, but I'm only putting a slight dip, and then what I'm doing is, ignore how messy it is. The florals, if you've been following me for a while, you know it does two squirts, and one goes that way, one goes that way, which means that you can never quite tell what direction it's going to go in. I keep meaning to fix it, but I never do. I think it gives me a little bit of giddiness. I go, oh, what way is it going to go today? It's like a game. I was going to say, Martin, you're awfully quiet, but they can't hear you. Well, they probably could if you had. It's just because there's no rooster feathers this week. I'm paying quite a lot of attention to our transition area, which is here, and mingling that down into here like this. It's just to kind of make it look like it's feeding into this sort of darkness of the piece. And that's why, I mean, I could have blended the whole wolf and made him look like it, but I thought, no, I'm going to do something that, and then I'm going to try and curve this up. So I'm going to get rid of this leaf here and curve this up to here. Because I've kind of done something similar on the other side. I'll bring a bit dark up in here as well, make it a little bit moody. Right, okay, so that is this side, and I'll play around with it off camera and just get it to where I want to be. So if Martin shows you the whole, it makes more sense to you. So I've got this bit here to fix as well to make it a little bit more rounded like that. The bigger brush, when you've got things like barley twist legs and things, just a little bit of paint on your brush, and we're just dry brushing. We're just dry brushing this. It gives it a really good look. So I go up and down it, and I'll have to get around the other side in a minute. But a little bit of paint on your brush goes a long, long way. So you do not need much. I mean, you can see how much I can do with just that little bit of paint on my brush. And all that texture that we put on when we put our black paint on as our undercoat has really helped the situation, and that way we can do. And I'm not adding any of the light blue on this point. I'm just adding just the Florence by itself, because that's giving it a really nice texture. And there we go. Right, so that's pretty much. I have to come back and tidy this up, and we've got more to do in the front, and I need to paint in here. But I'm going to stop the camera, twirl it round, and we'll get this side done so you know what's happening on the sides. As I said, the sides are slightly different because we've got this big open panel, and this is a funky piece that's something to do with the radiogram, and I just like it, so I'm just keeping it there. Now, what do you need next? You need a sort of kind of a stencil with small fretwork, nothing too big, something neat and tidy, and I think this one's quite a good one to do it with. So I'm just going to grab with my new trolley, because I've now got all my brushes, stencil brushes and things that I can grab a bit easier. This one here I think will be nice. Now I'm going to just try and find a piece of, oh actually I've got it here. You can't see me, but I've just dipped my brush in the cream. I don't have a huge amount of offloading space, so let's do this bit first because we know we can fit it in here. And we're just using the swirly twirly. Just need to hold that while I put a bit more paint on my brush. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect, this part. I'm always telling you it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just that this is going to be covered up. And see that little bit of white distress on there? I'm just going to keep it because it is quite a distressed piece. So now, there. Now, what we're going to do is, I'm just going to butt that one up against here, but we kind of have to stop where that little hole thing is. So it doesn't really matter, I don't think, if they match. The other side, I just kind of twirled them on the way I wanted it, but, you know. And yeah. So just build it. I mean, if you have a big stencil with small fretwork, it would be really quite good. But I do, but they're too open. They'd be too big. You know, they're more for large pieces of furniture. So I thought this will do nicely. Let's try and do this up here. And this wee corner up here is lacking. Oh, it's quite heavy, but that might look quite nice. It does. Right, try your best to kind of get something in between here. But I mean, you really are kind of like, it's because the stencil's going to bounce where the molds are, but you can try your best. There's not really much we can do in here, I don't think. We could try, but just want a little bit of something. Put more paint in my brush. I think that's as good as probably as we're going to get it, really. We want it distressed, so, and I was happy with the other side, so I'm just gonna see if I can fit a pack down in here beside this butterfly. Oh, got dipped in my yellow there. Right, okay, I'm quickly going to dry this and then we'll show you the next part. Okay, so now on the front, there's just some lines which are trees. So let's just try and make something like the trees. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of leaning thick and thin on this with not a huge amount of paint on the brush. Let's just kind of neaten up this edge here and make it a little bit thicker. So that's one tree. I'm not doing loads of them, but let's start one here. Martin and I were just debating where this is where maybe the wind-up handle was. If anybody knows or knows anything about radiograms, feel free to message us. We would like to know, wouldn't we, Mary?
I think we're probably right.
Yeah, my gran's had a wind-up handle.
It's a bit too ornate sort of thing to be accidental, you know.
Yeah, it's not something that somebody's added through time. It's been there obviously from the beginning. And maybe we'll put a lot of paint on my brush this time and a little bit of water. And we'll do a sort of thinner one here. It's just to kind of keep the... Remember what I'm always telling you about sides. You don't want furniture of two halves. You want furniture that looks kind of like it's matches the front, kind of. Didn't mean that one to be so thick, but I'm just going to do a wee thin end on this one. Right. Because in the front, it's just got like plain straight trees. So let's just... See, that's what I mean about being too worried about what happens to the molds. I mean, I'm not worried about that, and I think that's... Just going to quickly dry this off. I'll just finish off these trees at the bottom, because if not, it looks like they're coming from nowhere. And then we're going to do the next part. Okay. Okay, so our trees are completely dry. We're happy with our molds. Let's now design this a little bit funky. Now, I've got this transfer here. It's called Mono Tulip. I've had it for ages. It's a redesign by Prima one. And so I've taken some parts off of it. It's one big tulip, but I don't think we're going to be able to use the tulip. I've obviously used something on something at some point, but it's got these really nice leaves in it. These ones here. So what I've done on the other side is I've just added these in over the top of my trees, just to give it a wee bit of something, which I thought worked really well with what I'm doing. Let's just see if this is doing its due. Ooh, being quite brutal. A wee bit of the edge didn't want to come off. I like redesign by Prima, but I always think that IODs are easier to come off. I don't know whether that's just my imagination, but I always find that I think they're easier, but maybe they're not. Tell me what you think. I've got another one that I'm going to bring from down here, just to give that sort of mystical, magical, ethereal, whimsical, I don't know, all the colours. Because I think that these things kind of can add a little bit of something. If you don't have this transfer, just have a look in your transfers. You could use any little parts, leftover flowers, or I mean, pretty much you could use whatever you wanted to make it work. I just happen to have these and they happen to work with what I'm doing, but you don't have to do this. You could also, if you don't have the transfers at all, you could just put a stencil across it. There is no reason, there shouldn't be any gatekeeping to any of this. Just burnishing that on, and I think we'll put one more on and call it a day. And it's a nice wee short one, so let's just have this one come in across here like this. Now I've got some kind of fine work to do with kind of just like painting it in. I'm going to quickly show you a little bit of shadow, and I'm going to do around it. I'll do these legs, and then what we'll do is we'll turn it round, because the sides the front is dry now, and we'll get some trees in the front. I don't think I'm going to have any room for any of these transfers, but maybe some of the leaves, if I separate them off the, you know, like cut out individual leaves, we'll see what it's like. Now, a wee bit of shadowing. I've got some black on my brush already. I'm just going to dip it right into the turquoise and into the mica as well, because it was the green that I had. And I'm just going to kind of shadow this off, give it a little bit of depth when you're looking at it from far away, like that. But you can do this with any colour. A wee bit of shadow under there. And then you're just back to the dry brushing. And this on these done nicely. I like to dry brush. I don't do it as often as I should. I used to do it a lot, didn't I, Matty? Yeah. You need a nice detailed piece to do some dry brushing, but you get the gist of dry brushing. And the top, I'm just going to do the top the same painted way that I did the front and the sides. And then we're going to put our 2 sheets of decoupage, which are different in those apertures in the top. And gosh, we're getting closer to the finish. I found some Bakelite handles that I have in my drawer. There's this white one. I mean, they both need a good clean. There's a white one and there's a brown one. I really like this brown one, so I think what I'll do is I'm going to paint this, I think, and Martin's going to put it on the top, only because there's no way of getting this really open unless you put your fingers under it, and with molds and everything, I think it would be easier if it's just the top. Just the top front, and that means that you can still put plants or whatever, your ornaments or whatever you have, display stuff on it, and when you want to get your blankets out, you just open it up and open it up from the top. So I'll twist it around, we'll stop the camera, and I'll come back and do the front now. Okay, we're working back on the front now, so you can see the trees now on the paper. So I want to try and put some trees behind this now. So this is going to be a feat of engineering. So I'm going to dip I think I might need some water on my black to make this happen. And they're going to have to be relatively straight, which is a feat for me in itself. So let's just kind of start here. And up. And then here. That's not too bad. I've seen me do worse. This one here is going to be a thicker one. I don't want that black on the leaf. I will fix it. I know I'm saying, you know, you don't have to have it too perfect, but here and coming up here. This will hopefully look like it's in the background and give it something else. I don't know what it'll give it, but something. This one's going to be a wee thin one. And it's a bit wonky. Anywhere where I've touched these molds, I'm going to clean them up in a minute. I'm going to bring this tree right up to the top. Let's do one here. I know I'm moving fast, Matty. I'm trying not to move. I'll do one here and it'll be quite easy to follow. You can see all that lovely texture that's on the piece. And for those who don't know, we've just had our website all done up, and I have started doing a blog. And funnily enough, this month's blog on the website is about texture. And you can go on our website, and if you sign up to be, what is it on your website, Matt? If you just sign up to follow us on our website, I'll promise I won't spam you, but we'll let you know about any deals or anything that's coming down the line, or you'll know first if you sign up to that. Am I right in saying this, Martin?
Yep.
Yeah. It's Jamie's been beavering away in the background because Jamie actually designed our website, and now she's doing, oh yes, he'll like this. This looks kind of.
You need to give us your permission.
Yeah, because we can't just send anything to you. We have to have.
But you'll see it on the website. There'll be a thing there where you click and agree.
It's not to send you loads of stuff. It's not like that.
We're not spamming.
No, we're not going to be sending you lots of things. I mean, but if you ever want to know anything, or anything we think is worthy of telling you, like for example, when the stencils are nearly coming out, we'll let you know by email and things like that.
It sounds silly, but it's one of those things where if you subscribe to our website, for example, we still can't send you. We've got your email address, but we can't send you information because you haven't explicitly given us permission to do so. So on the new website, we're making it abundantly clear that that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because we've got hundreds of you that have subscribed to the website, but
we can't do anything. We can't send you anything or do anything with it because we haven't had your express permission.
Yeah. GDPR rules dictate.
Yeah.
It's all about data protection.
And we want to protect everybody. So anyway, that is a good way of keeping in touch. So just letting you know. And you can have a wee look at the new website as well. Jamie's done a nice job. It's very
we're very pleased with it.
It's very fresh and modern. Not that the old one wasn't, but Jamie has, I mean, this is all Jamie. I mean, she's not a website developer but she's a graphic designer, so she's on her second kind of wind of the website, and she's really kind of done a nice job, and she's quite proud of it. So you can have a wee look at that. Are the trees making it, Martin?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what the trees are doing.
Yeah, that's obviously what they are.
It's hard to kind of put them in now straight. I think I might have to come back with maybe, I think a Posca. I think a Posca might make this a nicer job. And what I'll do with a Posca is, see these little white lines that you can see? I'll put these in as well just to help it along and make it look a little bit more realistic. But see those little white lines that I've done on the tree?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be recreating it on this tree. Although my trees, I don't know, different. Different on a digital. Right, okay. So I'm going to get on and do my trees, and I'll just put some white lines on them. I don't think. Do you need to see that? Shall we do that, man? What do you think?
I think they can take your word for it.
I think I'll show you once I've done it. What I'm going to do now is finish off all the blue parts on the dark background while this dries, because once my trees are dry, I've decided I'm going to find some more of these little black leaves and I'm going to add some of that onto the front. And then we need to focus on the berries. And I'm going to do that next with the berries once it's all kind of dry, because I want quite a lot of berries in this. I don't know where they're all going to go right now because it's quite busy, but I'll make room for them. Okay. Okay, what have I done? I got a bit carried away on this side. I cut up a piece of transfer and applied it over here, but I applied it right over my molds and I really like it, but it's a bit white, so I just ran some cream over it. Gives it really nice texture, so I was quite enjoying that. You really need to kind of burnish it in. I'm going to try and show you on this side, although this was a hoo-ha, taking the time to do it. I did that and I painted the moon just behind there as best I could. I put a little bit of white painted flowers there, but I'm going to show you this on this side. And I've decided that these branches here should be black, not white. That's what's throwing that off. Let's just see that as it is. Just quickly kind of see if that looks better. Maybe a little bit of mix of both, actually. No, you don't really see them, but yeah, I think I prefer that. Just a little bit of both. Yeah, they're not that's better, isn't it, Martin? Yeah, it just didn't look right when I looked over. Okay, so I've got this, and as I said, it was a little bit of a feat to get it on this side, but I will try my best on camera. Yeah, do you want me to move it a little bit this way? Look, there you go. We're just going to be here, babe.
That's all right. So there's a better angle here, I think, because I've got to see inside. You know, because you're right-handed.
I am. So I kind of cut it in this sort of kind of, and this is how I'd kind of like it. So let's just see how I can do it. As I said, it was a little bit of a feat the last time. So if you don't see me doing all of it, you'll understand why. But it did work. I mean, you can put molds over, transfers over molds. You just need to, you know, kind of dig in and not worry about it too much. So I'm just getting in all this detail up here. And obviously I'm just doing the top first. I'm not working too much down the bottom because I want this part to kind of work. Can you see, Matty? Sorry.
Yeah.
That's it. Get nice and close for my disasters. It's always good. Right, we can push all these in a minute onto the detail, but we just need to get it on first. Let's do this part. Is it? I'm a bit worried. I just realised I'd painted those leaves in here and I'm putting a transfer over it. It's wet. But it might, yeah, it was just a little bit of paint. Now, I'm going to try and work it round here and into on top of here. This is the part I painted. Silly me. Remember, always dry it. I haven't sealed this piece because it's completely dry, but I always tell you if you're going to use a transfer to seal it first. Most of the time I do, but I knew how dry this piece was. I've actually been trying to work on it all week, but with having Oscar, and we had so many pallets going out this week with furniture. So my time when Oscar was napping was taken up with helping Martin do that, although I sometimes think I'm not much help.
You're the morale.
Yes, I do a lot of entertaining him and making him laugh, and grabbing him, which means that he can't actually do the work that he's supposed to be doing. I do a lot of that, but substance, not so much. I'm good at holding things. What I'm there for is holding things and folding bits of cardboard. That's my job, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And laughing like a hyena, messing
Messing about.
about.
Yeah.
It used to be when Poppy was here, she'd run away with a tape gun and everything, and it was a whole load of shenanigans then, but she's not here now, and Oscar's not big enough for shenanigans, but soon, he'll soon be able to do it. He's just about walking. Just about. Now, you can see what I mean about this. You really have to kind of like, and I'm doing it on camera as well. I must be crazy. Who would attempt these things? Yeah, well, I thought that as soon as I'd done it, I was just a bit disappointed. It's so glaringly white. I think it really kind of comes.
Around the molds and things like that.
Yeah, you just have to kind of go really slowly if you're putting transfers over molds. I have done it before, but not to this extent. Sometimes they just kind of touch up over them. Just make sure we'll give it a really good burnish at the end, but we're cracking on. I mean, I need to make sure that this one's going around this leaf here. I'm sure there's easier things to film, Matty. I tell you what I'll do. If I can find my scissors, I'll cut off this excess and then that's not flapping around. That might be a bit better for me. I just thought it made sort of a kind of finish line where the paper stopped, and it's a little bit different than just painting and blending it in. You know, I thought I'll do something different today because that way you've got a little bit of everything. And there is a little bit of everything in this. There's dry brushing, which I don't very often do now. There's molds, there's the application of molds, there's the design of the molds, then there's the decoupage, and a whole heap of stuff, which is good. Sorry, this is taking forever. I'll be glad when I get off of this part, to be honest with you. Nearly there. I know. Well, I thought that I thought I wasn't going to do this side on camera, but I thought I can't not show them. I have to kind of show them that me doing it, but I really didn't want to because I knew it was going to be like this. See, this is where I just painted over it again. I've been really silly. I'm going to have to deal with that now. Right. Okay. Now, kind of get your nail. Now, I'm sure there's a more technical tool that I probably have to do this, and burnish it into the leaves. That's the bit that makes it look really 3D. In all the wee gaps. I'm pleased with that one. That's nice. And it runs all the way up the top. That's where I painted the wet flower. And I painted a flower here as a leaf here as well. So that's why it didn't stick. Now, burnish, burnish, burnish. Make sure it's all burnished in. Now, that's this side and this side. Now, I'm just going to put up a little tiny part of cream on here. Just to make it less white. Just a little bit of a brush of it. It's actually a part of a leaf, this. I'll just do this. Look, I'll just wet my brush. You can get back up on your chair now, Martin. Instead of kneeling. Poor Marty has to go through everything just to get it filmed because sometimes I'm doing it the wrong way around for him because I'm right-handed. No, there we go. That's that part done. So I'm kind of happy with position. I need to obviously do, and I'll go away and do this off camera. I need to make these leaves black, which I'll do off camera. And, now this is the next part we need to do. Now this is going to take a bit of time to dry. I'm wanting to put my berries in. Berries. But I think what I've done is I've left the lid off this. I'm going to have to get a pen. I'm going to do my berries, I think, with this outliner like that. And then fill them in with red to make them 3D. But it's got a little bit blocked and I'm going to need a pen. I thought I'd left, the lid was on it, but this is the thing with these ones. Sometimes they get a little bit blocked. Let's try this. See if that's, no, it's still blocked. We'll come back to that. next thing I'm going to set up on the top, and we'll put our decoupage paper in there, and by the time I'll have unblocked that, so we know that this side is done and this side is done. I've got the dry brushing to finish, and I need to do one more coat of the red inside, and I think we'll do something here and here as well. Why not? And then the handles. I've already showed the handles. Yeah, I have. Right, we're going to paint these handles, and I'm going to go with this one because I like it better. And we'll probably, I'm wondering whether I might just keep it brown. No, I think I'll do it red because it'll stand out against here. Okay, right, set up with the decoupage up the top. Okay, so if you've never, ever used Made by Marley decoupage paper, this is the simplest way that I'm ever going to show you to use it. There's no blending involved. All there is a little bit of cutting. So I've sat my paper into my apertures where I want them to go. I'm going to take my hands and I'm literally going to run my finger down it to mark where my paper is going to go so that it fits when I cut it at the end. Just make sure you get your fingernail in the corners. Now, pull it out, turn it over. It's always much easier to cut decoupage paper from the back. Then I'm going to try my best to cut a nice straight line. And you just cut it out. Oops, my line wasn't incredibly straight there. And you won't be rushing, and you'll make a lovely job of this. Now, set that piece to the side. Now you need to get your Mod Podge and open that up. And you need a nice soft brush. Mine's has got nice soft bristles, and let's just apply it. Oh, what was that? Was that the top of the bit more dry glue? Good, well spotted, Ammo. If that had gone into here, it would have made a mess. Right, I'm not going to put any more glue on than I've already got in here now because that's enough. I'm just going to make sure that I've got it in all of the edges. Doesn't matter if you go over, that'll be fine, but you just need to make sure you've got it in all the corners, all the edges. Now, once you've got this far, what you need to do is just do light feathery strokes. You don't want big lines of glue. There's a piece of that hard stuff from the top on your piece. Anything like that will give you wrinkles and bumps. So make sure that this part is done and it's nice and smooth, and you have applied glue to all of your surfaces, because if you don't apply it to all the surfaces, you're going to get wrinkles. Right, I'm happy with that. Put that there. Get my piece of paper. Put it into the aperture. Get a soft cloth, wipe from the middle to the edges. Make sure you're getting it right into all of the edges. Give it one last rub. You know there's no wrinkles, and you leave it alone. And that is the simplest way to do and use Made by Marley decoupage paper. I'm going to go and repeat on the other side. I'm going to have my flower go in a different direction on this side. Then I've got my pin in my little relief liner, and we'll come down. We'll do the berries on the front, and then I'm going to go way off camera and do the inside a second coat of red. And I've got, this won't be part of it, but I've got another two with these. So these are going to go in the inside aperture, just so when it's the blanket box is opened up, it's a little bit fancy. Why not? Right, so I'll get on and do this now. Okay, so these berries here, I don't have any black outliner, but I want it to be kind of 3D. So I've got this relief gel, which I'm going to do this. Oops. I'm hopefully going to try and make them a little bit rounder than what I've got. Bring it up over this edge. I'm going to fill them in with paint. So where else? Sorry, Matty, I'm jumping around. I don't want too many of them. They don't look very pretty at the moment, but they'll be fine once they've been painted in. Here, and maybe down here. Now, these are not at all dry, so you shouldn't really do what I'm about to show you. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill these in with the red paint to make them look. And I'll do stalks on them once they're completely dry. But you should wait until this is dry before you do what I'm doing. But it's just to show you what I'm doing. Now, this is pretty much finished. I need to obviously do the inside another coat of red, and you don't want to see that, that's a bit boring. And you've just seen me decoupage the top, and I'm just going to do the inside part of the top. But the next thing, I need to obviously do stems on these, but I just wanted something a little bit 3D almost, because it is kind of like that. It looks like there's like a background and a middle ground and foreground in this, and I quite like it. So I went and touched up against that one there. I really shouldn't be doing this when they're wet, but hey ho, here I am. There. They kind of stand out a little bit as well, which is nice with the red. Now, the handle, I am going to get a decent paintbrush for it. Nothing too big and nothing too small. Maybe this one here. The handle, I'm going to paint 2 coats of red, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to seal it. So the first coat, because it's plastic, won't be too pretty, but the second coat should be quite nice. And then I'll get Martin to drill me some holes on the top, and we'll apply this. I think I am going to, I was pondering waxing it, but I'm not going to wax it. I'm going to hard coat seal it, because there's an awful lot going on in this piece. I won't be able to seal it tonight. I don't think. I'm going to just leave it alone until tomorrow and come over and seal it then. But that's what I'm going to do now. Let this handle dry and do this, and then do the decoupage on the inside and do the red on the inside. And I'll need to do stems on our berries, because if not, they just look like round circles at the moment, and I'll do that. I might just do it with the gold, but either or. So that's it so far. Okay, this was pretty easy to do. Cast your molds, pop them on your furniture, find a focal image. Remember, if you're going for that whimsical, you don't want it too childlike, so try and find either an image that is a kind of, it could be either or, it's not too childlike. We did some sort of stenciling, we did hand painting on the trees, we applied transfer, we used mica powder to give these a slight sheen. We decoupaged the top, and we did a dry brushing technique to paint it. And really, it sounds like an awful lot, but when you just do each step, plod along, do each step the way I've shown you, this is how it turns out. It's not that difficult. So nailing this sort of whimsical look on furniture isn't that difficult. It's just, I think it's all got to do with your focal image and how you work around your focal image, because I think this could be adulty, or for a child, or for somebody who just likes Little Red Riding Hood. It's appealing to more customers as opposed to one set of customers. And you can't be everything to everybody, but you can try and market it so that it sells. That's really been it today. If you are bored over the next few days, hop over to our new website. You'll see it, how beautiful it is, and read my blog. My blog is all about texture. I'm thinking about texture and applying texture. So, and I've never written a blog before, so it's quite interesting. There's some nice images of close-ups of my furniture as well with texture. And while you're there, sign up to our email, and we won't spam you, but that way we can send you things or tell you things that are happening. All the furniture art in boxes so far. The first trench is going out next week. So anybody that ordered furniture art in a box, that's brilliant. And from now on, it'll just be a product that is straight out available. We've had an overwhelming response, and Martin and I would like to thank you just for everybody that purchased one and any of the new collection of our decoupage paper. I just want to say one last thing before I go, which is this. because we were so late due to me being sick and ill, the summer release wasn't really a summer release, and it's just happened. But unfortunately, that's left us in a circumstance of when do we put the autumn release out? So we're kind of trying to work it that we're not all about throwing more out so that you can buy it. It's just that if you want autumnal and sort of Christmas stuff to make things with, we're going to have to get it out pretty shortly. So we were hoping to get it out at the end of September. So that's some news which you would have got if you signed up for an email on our lovely new website.
Yes.
Okay, Martin, do you have anything to add about Little Red Riding Hood?
No, I say this every week, don't I? So I'll try to use different words. I think that your creativity, darling, is just amazing. The way you construct things, put them together, pull them together. Who'd have known from that piece of furniture that was literally,
Didn't really have a function.
didn't have a function.
Because it only had
exactly.
one door and it
it's
opened
now
at the
this
top. Now it's a blanket
super
box
cool blanket box. Exactly, yeah.
with a nice plant stand.
I mean, you'll see in a minute when I do the walk around video, you'll see what she's done on the inside and things like that as well. It's just
inside.
it's
I
lovely.
did my two coats of Empress Silk, which is the red, and I quite like this sort of red in peeking through because I thought that kind of gives it a little bit of suggestion of what's to come. I decoupaged the inside, and this little top rim, I just ran the same stencil that I used around the top, but you'll see it in a minute. It was just a 5-minute job just to finish it off, and it's all been sealed inside as well, ready for somebody's blankets or newspapers, or if it was me, I'd be storing things that I didn't want Martin to know I had just purchased. Okay, see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Next Sunday. Bye.
Bye-bye.